Hi folks, Wooden Boat Dan here. Just wanted to give you a heads up. The podcast you're about to listen to was recorded several years ago, so some of the phone numbers, email addresses, website links, and time-sensitive information are no longer valid. Please keep that in mind as you listen. If you'd like to contact me, my email address is woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Hooked on Wooden Boats, podcast episode number 127. I am your host, Dan Matson, recording this podcast from my new studio in Stanwood, Washington. Welcome to the podcast. This podcast is all about celebrating the art, craft, history, tradition, and romance of wooden vessels around the world, in the pond, in your backyard, in your garage, in the rivers, in the lakes, in the oceans. Wherever there's water and there's a boat, that's what we talk about here, especially when they're made out of wood. We love wood. Wood is cool. So thanks for tuning in today, folks. I went to a bi-weekly format for the podcast 2 weeks ago. Plan to continue to do that for the near future, as my schedule is super busy right now with full-time work and a commute on top of that. And we just moved and so on. So I don't want to quit doing the podcast. I love doing it. So I'm going to every 2 weeks. So thanks for tuning in today. Today's featured segment is an interview with Buzz Scott. Buzz is the president of oceanswide.org, and among other things, Buzz flies submersible, remotely operated vehicles at depths up to, I believe he said 1,400 meters, and he's a wooden boat guy, and Oceanswide is taking on a project to restore a large wooden boat to use for their research. So stick around for that interview. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Well, since the last time I did this recording, we've gotten settled into our house. It's about half the size of our last house, which is turning out to be a good thing, actually. It's forcing us to make some hard decisions about what to keep and what to get rid of and how to be better organized. And because of the smallness of the house, it's kind of cool. Everything's kind of more at your fingertips. You're not going from room to room to look for something, and it's just more practical. But as part of that move, I went from a 3-car garage and a basement area to a 2-car garage for my shop. And at the moment, the 2-car garage is mainly full of boxes that we're still unpacking. So all this to say is I don't have my shop set up yet, but I am working on it slowly. Hope to have something set up so I can start some work in there in the next month, possibly. I may have to build a shed in the backyard to store our bikes and things like that. So I am working on that. And actually, I've been thinking lately what I might do actually is refinish my dory and sell it. Which I can't believe I would sell my dory, but it's like I don't need 3 boats. So I've got the dory. I've got the Scamp that's I purchased from a gentleman who had started it. It's probably 25% complete. And then I've got my 12-foot lap straight canoe Chelan. So I'm thinking if I sold my dory, then I could focus on the Scamp, getting that finished, and keep that boat for myself, which I would love to do that. So anyway, that's the direction I am headed. This week, well, actually in the last month, we've got 22 or 23 new subscribers to the electronic newsletter. So I'm going to buzz through the names here. Roy Zills, Dennis Burdett, Jay Knight, Bert Van Bar, Thomas Vetter, Robert Klozowski, Ken Germond, Frank Campion, Rick Powers, Ben Thacker Gwaltney, Chris Collins, Ryan Helling, Tommy Cheshire, Scott Andrews, Camus Landia-Terriero, Dylan Patanod, Thurkildson, sorry about that, Jeff, Wayne Conklin, Kelvin Dietz, Steph Wright, Jeff Peters, Phil Bajor. Thanks for subscribing to my free electronic newsletter, which I send out usually on a monthly basis. I've got one due this week, so I will be sending that out. If you haven't subscribed to the free newsletter, you can do so by going to hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. Give me your first and last name, email address, and you're in like Flint. and I send out some fun resources, tell you what's happening at Hooked on Wooden Boats, give you links to some videos here and there and to some podcast stuff. So I would encourage you to do that. It's a lot of fun. I've got over 600 people on the list now, which is pretty awesome. Okay, we're going to move into the interview with Buzz Scott from Oceans Wide in Maine, United States of America. So take it away, Buzz. All right, it is February 28th, 2014. I am on the phone with Buzz Scott of Maine. Buzz, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Buzz and I were connected by Pat Lound from Wooden Boat. Pat's the director of research there, and we had interviewed her a while back. And she says, you got to talk to this guy named Buzz, and he's involved with a sardine boat and things like that. Buzz, let's start with, I forgot, what town in Maine are you located, Buzz?
I'm living in Newcastle, Maine.
Newcastle, Maine.
Up the river. Yeah, just up the river from Boot Bay.
Okay, very good. So, Buzz, let's start with a little bit of your personal history growing up, and tell me what you did and where you were and those sort of things.
Okay. I grew up on a little island called Matinicus, which is the furthest inhabited island off the coast of Maine here. It's about 25 miles from Camden, Maine, due south out to sea. And it's a mile and a half by 2.5 miles. I grew up there as primarily it was a fishing island, and I grew up in the 70s and 80s out there, fishing, doing all kinds of fishing, lobstering, and started in a little peapod, my first wooden boat, and it was 16 foot long, and you roll it standing up. It was a great little boat, and I hauled my wooden lobster traps out of that, and as I grew up, I worked with fishermen on the island, and we did everything from long lining, catching halibut and groundfish to purse seining and stop twine seining, which is where you shut off the coves. When the fish swim in, we would shut the coves off with nets, and then the sardine carriers would come out to the island. We would pump the fish into the sardine carriers, and that was my first experience with the Pauline. When I was a young man, I used to fill the Pauline with herring and a number of other nice old wooden sardine carriers.
Okay. So did you live on that island year-round, Buzz?
I did.
Yeah.
I lived on the island year-round.
Was there a school there?
Yeah, there was a one-room schoolhouse. I went to school there for about 3 years, and then I had to move off the island to go to high school. And I lived in Owl's Head, just inland from Matinicus.
Okay, and so was your dad a fisherman? Is that how you kind of got into that?
My dad wasn't a fisherman. He was an artist, and that made it a pretty interesting childhood for me, because I got to go out and fish with all of the other fishermen and learn from each and every one of them. So it was kind of a good thing that Dad wasn't a fisherman.
Interesting. So I can't imagine living on an island, 1.5 by 2.5 miles. What was that like, Buzz?
It was an adventure every day. We didn't have you didn't have to worry about a lot of things that you have to worry about on the mainland. There were, everybody knew everybody out there, so you could go out. Usually, if you got in trouble, everybody knew about it before you did it. But we could wander around the island and go to the beaches, and it didn't matter what time of year it was. We were always in our boats, out playing in the summertime, hauling traps, just getting out and exploring the ocean. It was a great way to grow up.
Yeah, it sounds like a wonderful experience. So was there a little store on the island and a few roads and a couple cars, that kind of thing?
There were very few cars, all dirt roads, one general store. One of my favorite stories of the general store is is and probably what got me into the life of adventure is the old fishermen would sit around and tell stories in the wintertime around the stove there in the store, and as kids we would kind of line up around them and listen to the stories. And we've heard stories about, of course, World War I, World War II, and even some of the folks going to Antarctica and traveling around the world. So it was an education to visit the store.
Yeah, I bet. Does any of your family still live out there, Buzz?
We have a house out there, but it's owned by my uncle, and we typically go out there in the summertime. But hope to change that a little bit and go out in the fall and the spring and work with the kids in the one-room schoolhouse. We'll want to get them out on the ocean with our boat and with our submarines so that they can get a feel for adventure as well. We have 3 unmanned submersibles. They're remotely operated.
Okay.
And we want to use those for education.
Yeah. So how many people live on the island these days, do you know?
Oh, boy. There were 40 families when I lived out there in the 70s, and the fishing's declined pretty much. It's gone downhill as far as being a lot of fishermen on the island. They typically run from the mainland out and fish and then come back in. During the summer, they tend to stay out on the island. So, I'd say in the summertime there's probably still about 40 families.
Has it kind of changed from people living there because they were fishermen to more of people that have summer homes there and visit when the weather's good kind of thing, or?
Yeah, Matinicus is a strange island as far as that goes. It's I don't know what it is, if it's just so far out to sea or if there are so many other islands that have a little bit more space. But in the summertime, we have not too many summer people come out there, but maybe 10 families, and for the most part, they're all fishermen.
I see. Is there any ferry service out there, or you have to take your own boat?
Yes, in the summertime, I think we have 3 ferries a month, and in the wintertime, we have one a month.
Really? One run per month?
One run per month, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Not too much. There's not much of a need to get cars and trucks out to the island. So what they'll do is they'll run a recycling truck out there, fuel trucks, and so there's really only a need for one a month in the wintertime.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
pretty isolated out there.
Yeah, sounds like it. Wow. I would assume that the weather gets pretty rough out there in the winter, doesn't it?
It's it can get nasty. It can get windy and storms blow up. But I've been talking with a friend of mine out there. When we're getting 2 feet of snow, he's getting rain out there. So typically, it's 10 degrees warmer in the summertime and 10 degrees cooler in the. 10 degrees warmer in the wintertime and 10 degrees cooler in the summertime.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Very cool. So, Buzz, what did you do after you graduated from high school?
After I graduated from high school, I went back out to the island and bought a 34-foot wooden lobster boat, fished out there on my own for a little bit, and fished with other fishermen until I was 27. And when in 1987, lobsters did a bit of a dip, and we weren't catching very many lobsters. And I said, well, I couldn't make a living at that, so I wanted to go back to school. And so after high school, went to Matinicus and fished out there for about 9 years, I guess, and then went back to college.
Mm-hmm. And where did you go to school, Buzz?
The University of Maine. I studied biology and engineering, 2 things that don't typically go together, but I had interest in both of them, and so mechanical engineering and marine biology.
Oh, marine biology. Okay, all right. And then, so what did you do after that, Buzz?
After that, I followed my family down to Oklahoma, where my wife got a PhD at Tulsa University, and I joined the Navy down in Oklahoma. We were there for 4 years, and I was in the Seabees. And after the Seabees, a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go to the Antarctic. And I'd been in Oklahoma where it's very warm for 4 years, and I thought, well, it might be nice to get to a cooler climate. And so I accepted his offer and went down to the Antarctic and sailed on the Nathaniel B. Palmer for 4 years. And after that, was hired at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute as a marine technician. And shortly after I was hired, I was asked to join the remotely operated submersibles team and flew their 4,000-meter vehicle for 10 years.
Let's back up for just a second, Buzz. Tell me about your time in the Antarctic, what you were doing, and what that was like.
Oh, it was wonderful. I've always been involved in adventure, and it was by far one of the best adventures I've had in my life. We had wonderful summer days down there, but I've also seen 112 below zero at the Ross Ice Shelf. I worked as a marine projects coordinator and a marine technician on board the Nathaniel B. Palmer. She's a light class icebreaker, 308 feet long, and we did science, anything from sea ice to studying penguins, seals, whales, and geology and seismic work. We did all of it, the whole gambit. Was
that a government project, or?
It is. It's part of the U.S. Antarctic program, and so the National Science Foundation funds it, and we're subcontractors that go down to support the science.
I see. Now that's not part of NOAA, though, is it?
No.
Okay.
Different branch, but we do a lot of the same types of research.
Okay. So 112 below zero, that sounds pretty cold.
It was darn cold, yeah.
Is that the kind where if you go out in it, you die within like a couple minutes or something?
You don't want to stay out there very long, and we had a situation where we opened the the door to the outside to launch a piece of equipment. The hydraulics in the door super cooled, and we had trouble getting the door shut. So, and that then was allowing cold air to get into the rest of the ship. And the engineers said, we have to call this because we're super cooling the engines as well. And so we brought the equipment back on board, and after a bit of time, we were able to shut the door and get back on our way.
Wow, pretty crazy. Yeah. So then your next stop was Monterey Bay?
Next stop was Monterey Bay, working for the Packard Foundation, David Packard, Hewlett-Packard, and his daughter arranged to build the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and David Packard, being the technology lead that he was, said, well, if we're going to have an aquarium, we have to have equipment to help us study the deep ocean, and he built the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, and we had on hand 2 vessels, and each vessel had a remotely operated vehicle on board, an ROV, and one was capable of diving to 1,800 meters, and the other was capable of diving to 4,000 meters. And again, another adventure. We went from Canada to the Sea of Cortez, spent a lot of time in the Monterey Bay, which is a very deep canyon, kind of like the Grand Canyon, just under the ocean. And then we also went out to Hawaii and spent some time looking at the volcanoes out there. But in the 10 years that I worked there, we discovered over 300 new species of animals, and so it was a great experience.
Wow!
Something I wanted to bring home to me.
That is amazing, Buzz. So, what size are those ROVs physically?
The one I worked with was oh boy, it was about 10,000 pounds, and 7 feet tall, 7 feet wide, and about 11 feet long.
Kind of shaped like a submarine, or?
Not at all. It's they're more of a tube. So they have foam pack up on top that keeps it neutrally buoyant in the deep water, and then all the equipment up front. But it's more or less a rectangular shape.
Yeah. Are those tethered to the boats that connected?
They are 4,000 meters of cable that's over just under 3/4 of an inch in diameter.
Wow. Okay. And so, are they electrically propelled then?
Some of them are electric, some of them are hydraulic. We had one of each, and so the argument was which is louder, the hydraulics or the electrical. And the electrical ones, I think, make more noise for the animals that are in the deep sea.
Mm-hmm.
But
wow,
they were great instruments, and really, the animals in the deep sea didn't fear them at all. They were actually attracted to them. One, because of the lights, curiosity. I think squid love to come around and check us out because they were obviously quicker than we were, so they knew they could get away from us. And I think that the lights attracted prey for them, so they were constantly coming in and taking a snack in front of the vehicle.
So these things have big lights on them. They've got cameras, obviously. And do they have? Are they capable of collecting samples of things?
Oh, absolutely, yes. The work-class vehicles, there are three types of vehicles. They're the small kind of inspection vehicles, and they're the mid-range that can do some sampling and have the capability of carrying an arm for picking things off the bottom. But the large working-class vehicles that we use typically have two arms, so we can, it's almost like an extension of your own body. And you can reach out and thread shackles with these things and plug in instruments, pick things up off the bottom. And, they're strong enough to pick up a rock that weighs 200 pounds and toss it aside, or pick up an animal the size of a pencil without damaging it and putting it into a sampling tray. And then we have suction samplers on board. We have a swing arm that has acrylic tubes with a hydraulically actuated top and bottom. So if we fly over an animal, when we fly them into that acrylic tube, we can shut the top and the bottom, catch them. And many times they're agitated because they know they've been caught, but they're caught safely, and they're caught so that we can bring them back to the surface unharmed in the water that they were just swimming in. Wow,
that's fascinating stuff. So now I'm assuming these are all made out of wood, right, Buzz? I'm just kidding, man.
The ROV?
Yeah.
Not quite. No, our wooden vessels are going to be on the surface. These are made of syntactic foam. There's a large 2,500-pound block of syntactic foam that holds up the. There's some the vehicle that we have now. That they have at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute is a 13,000-pound vehicle, and so it takes quite a lot to make that buoyant in the deep ocean.
So it's made out of foam?
There is a foam pack on the top. It's kind of like a big life preserver,
okay.
And that's bolted to the top, so you have your flotation at the top, and then you have all your weight down below, so that it's a stable platform.
I see. So it's a steel shell?
A steel frame, and it is a frame. It is a flow-through frame. Just in the currents, it makes it a lot easier to fly this vehicle.
Mm-hmm. So what do those things cost, Buzz?
Hey, they range from $1.5 million up to I think the one that we built in-house was almost $13 million.
Wow.
Yeah, not a cheap piece of equipment, but as they get more and more common, the price is going down, and we hope to use one for educational purposes, and we'll probably work on one of the lower end ones, lower priced ones.
Yeah.
Begin with. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
so you were the pilot, so to speak, of this ROV. Is that right?
I was one of 5. We have a team that has mechanical, computer, hydraulic, general. One of our guys can do all of those, and so we have someone that can really work on each aspect of the vehicle, and then we learn how to fly them. And so a team of 5, and yes, I was one of the pilots.
So I'm just curious, if you had a mission with one of these ROVs to go down 4,000 meters and do some stuff and come back up, how long would that mission last?
It's a day trip. We typically go down at 5 o'clock in the morning. We'll start our pre-dive, get in the water at 6, and fly for about 10 to 12 hours. So we'll be back on deck between 4 and 6 in the evening.
Wow, very cool.
Now that's unusual because a lot of these vehicles that go out, NOAA has 2, and Bob Ballard, of course, has 1. Woods Hole has 1. There's some in England and one over in Japan. China or Canada also has 1, but there are very few of these vehicles out there. And what they'll do is they'll go out and they'll have 2 crews of 5-day crew and 5-night crew, and they'll actually try and stay in the water around the clock.
Wow. Now, are these the type of vehicles that were used to find the Titanic and do stuff like that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Ballard used blanking on the name right now, but he used the vehicle to find the Titanic. Yeah.
Wow,
and,
very fascinating.
And they're great. They're great rigs for shipwreck hunting. So we hope to do a little bit of that here in the Gulf of Maine as well.
Okay. So how long were you at Monterey Bay then?
I was there full-time for almost exactly 10 years, and I have been part-time for 5 years now.
Okay. And then, so you've started an organization, or are you co-founder, I'm not sure, of Oceans Wide?
That's right. We started, I have to back up a little bit. When I was at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, David Packard said one of his quotes was, "Learn as much as you can here and then go out and make the world a better place." Not a quote, but it's pretty close. And so I worked there and have always wanted to come back to Maine and do good things, help to restore the Gulf of Maine, because in my childhood I loved getting out on the ocean and I loved to fish, and it made me kind of sad to see the biodiversity drop off as much as it has. So I took David Packard at his word, and I said, "Well, I've learned a lot here, and I think I'll go back home and start a program called Oceans Wide." And so what we do is we use these remotely operated vehicles to get out into the Gulf of Maine and work with students on the islands and around the coast. So we're working with the Lincoln Academy High School right now, and we're going to go out and we're going to look at the impacts on the ocean with these vehicles and do some exploration, some adventure, and some shipwreck hunting, a number of other things. But primarily what we're trying to do is make the students aware of what's going on in the ocean so that we can create stewardship. And basically we're getting out there to explore, to restore.
Wow, that sounds really awesome. What year did the organization start, Buzz?
Oh, let's see. I came back to Maine in 2008, and we've been working since 2008, and have had a lot of great successes. We've summer camps. We actually had an intern program where we trained some of our guys to understand what it's like to be a marine technician on board these vessels, and two of them are now working in the Antarctic, and we're working on a third one to go down and experience the Antarctic life.
Okay. So does Oceans Wide have their own ROV at this point?
We do. We have three.
Wow.
One was donated to us by the University of Maine. They're all very old vehicles, and they're primarily, at this point, training vehicles. But we have three. One is a Phantom 300. We have a Phantom S2, which is capable of diving to 1,000 feet, and another one called a Highball, and that one also is rated for 1,000 feet. But we're obviously, I feel very proud of this fact that we're doing good things, and it's being noticed because the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute donated the Phantom S2. The U.S. Antarctic Program donated the Highball, and like I said, the University of Maine was kind enough to give us the Phantom 300. So all good vehicles, and we look forward to getting them in the water.
Yeah, definitely. So you have been using those for a little while then, those ROVs?
The Phantom 300, we've been using that for about 5 years now, and it's a great little rig because we can use it in the open ocean, and it's an inspection vehicle. It's on the low end of the mid-range vehicles, and it's capable of diving to a lot of the Gulf of Maine is fairly shallow, so we can reach a lot of spots in the Gulf of Maine. And it's also small enough that we can take it on the road with us when we go to different schools, and we can dive it in a lake or a pool and give the kids the experience of flying the vehicle, even if they can't get out on the ocean.
Yeah. Wow, I bet sounds like a great experience for the kids out there.
Oh, I tell you what, they're eating it up, and I just got back from a trip. We do what we call the on-the-road trips in the wintertime, and it's kind of spreading the word about Oceans Wide. We get out to schools all over Maine, and then we're expanding a little bit and going down to New York and Chicago and parts in between, and to talk to some of these kids that some of them have never been on the ocean, to give them an experience of tell them the stories that I've been telling you. Really, it starts to get their imagination rolling, and so we're building a following, I guess, and they're very excited about putting the ROVs in the water. They're excited about learning how to safety on the ocean, working on the vessels and vessel operations, and it's really I couldn't be happier to see how it's evolved.
Very good, very good. So, Buzz, you guys are well. Tell me about the sardine carrier Pauline. Tell me a little bit about the boat and its history and what you guys are doing with that rig.
Well, we are right now looking at the Pauline as our primary vessel, and our plan is to purchase the vessel and restore it to its original configuration. It was purchased about 20 years ago, maybe even longer, and turned into a packet boat almost, and an overnight boat and breakfast type of the vessel. And it was built in 1948 here in Thomaston, Maine. Beautiful wooden sardine carrier, one of the largest ones ever built, and I think I could safely say that she was the pride of the fleet when she was in operation. And everybody up and down the coast knows the Pauline. When they see her sailing, they can tell 20 miles away that that's the Pauline. And so what we want to do is restore a bit of history, a bit of tradition here on the Gulf of Maine. And so we'll purchase the Pauline, restore her, and then put our submarines on board so that we can go out and explore and dive in the Gulf of Maine.
What length is a Pauline?
She is 83 feet long and 19 feet wide, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And what's she powered by, or what will she be powered by, Buzz?
She is powered by a diesel, an 8-cylinder diesel, and it's an old Cummins, and we'll probably leave that in because it's very efficient. The vessel itself is very efficient. She's long and slender and is kind of modeled after the old schooners, so she slips through the water very nicely. Very efficient vessel, not the fastest vessel in the world. Cruises about 10 knots, but she's a very capable vessel. 83 feet long and a solid platform.
And she's strictly motor powered, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I've seen pictures of her. I don't know, was she in Wooden Boat recently or something? Wooden Boat magazine?
She was in Wooden Boat in 1984, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, July and August of 1984 is. I've got it sitting here in front of me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so Oceans Wide is a nonprofit 501c3. Is that right, Buzz?
We are a 501c3, and yes, a nonprofit, using the vessels and vehicles for education, outreach, and restoration of the ocean.
So how do you get funding, Buzz?
Well, right now we rely on the kindness of our friends and families. We're writing grants constantly, and we're working with several educational facilities to design programming that will we can work in collaboration to bring in funding for the program.
Okay. And are you? What do you anticipate the purchase price for Pauline to be and the restoration cost?
Right around $1 million for everything. So I'm not sure what the owner is asking at this point. He has been dropping the price over the last couple of years just because he also wants to see the vessel back online. He took the boat over from the last owner, and his name is Harlan Billings. He's the owner of Billings Diesel and Marine up in Stonington. And Harlan and I had talked over and over again about what a shame it is that she's just sitting at the dock and she needs to be out there. So his asking price this year might be a little lower than it was last year, but I think they were asking $105,000 for it. And then the restoration is going to be the major cost, and we'll have to strip the existing house off of her and rebuild her from the deck up. The hull has been rebuilt and over the last 5 years, so they nearly $1 million in restoration of the hull. So the hull is almost 100% brand new.
Okay. So are you in a fundraising mode to purchase this boat and restore her, Buzz?
Very much in the fundraising mode, yes, sir.
Okay.
Seems like all we do right now.
Yeah.
I look forward to getting into the building and restoring mode.
Yeah. Do you anticipate you'll purchase her this year?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been talking with several of our collaborators and partners, and we hope to purchase her sometime early spring, which is coming up real quick.
For people listening, Buzz, that want to find out more about Oceans Wide, what you guys do, and the Pauline project, and possibly even contribute some funds, what would be the best way for them to connect with you guys?
Oh, wow. Well, on our website, which is simply oceanswide.org. There, there's a place to donate if people want to, and we greatly appreciate that. And also, it has our contact information on the web, and it's my email address is buzz, B-U-Z-Z, at oceanswide.org. If anybody's interested in talking to me personally.
Okay. And Oceans is an acronym for something. Can you tell us what that is?
Oceanswide?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Didn't I see that on the website or something?
Yeah. It's opportunities for creating environmental awareness nationwide. And that's how we boiled it down to Oceanswide.
Cool. I like that name. Very good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast today, Buzz. Very fascinating stuff you've done and are doing, and I wish you guys the best there at Oceanswide. Anything else you'd like to say to our audience?
I can only say that if you're interested in exploring the Gulf of Maine, please get in touch and come out and join us for an opportunity to get out there.
Okay, very good.
Appreciate the opportunity to chat with you, and we look forward to getting you on board the Pauline real soon.
Okay, very good, Buzz. Well, we'll stop the recording here in a second, then you and I will chat. So thanks again for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're back here for a short addendum. Buzz and I were chatting after the interview ended, and he wanted to add something here. So go ahead, Buzz.
Yeah, so Dan asked me if I had any, what boat I was using, and it made me remember that we have rolled into town with our ROVs. We haven't had a boat in the past, and it's been a really wonderful experience to come back to Maine and tell the fishermen that we have these small submarines, remotely operated submarines. The fishermen are saying, well, wait a minute, we can see the bottom of the ocean, and what part of get on my boat don't you understand? So they're very friendly and very open to seeing what we're all about, and it gives them the experience of seeing the bottom of the ocean where they have been fishing all their lives. And then on the flip side, working with the fishermen is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and it gives the students an opportunity to see what that life is all about, which is great because they need to understand the tradition and the culture of the fishing community. But on the other side, we have scientists that come on board, and a lot of these scientists are getting grants from the National Science Foundation, and the grants have a stipulation that they have to have an educational outreach component to their work. So if they come on our boat and they work with our students, mentor our students, they get the science done that they need. They also fulfill their educational outreach requirements, and so it gives them a real, it's a plus win-win kind of situation for the scientists, the fishermen, and most of all, the students.
Very good. Well, thanks for adding that, Buzz, and once again, appreciate you being on the podcast.
Hey, thanks again.
Okay. Thanks, Buzz, for taking the time to do the interview. It was a lot of fun. I can't imagine what it would be like to sit at the controls on a ship of a vehicle that's 1,400 meters below the ocean surface, and wow, that's pretty cool. But anyway, I wish you the best with the organization and with the restoration of Pauline. I hope that the funds continue to come in and you guys are able to do that. And when I get to the East Coast sometime here, I don't know when exactly, I'm going to definitely come and look you up. So thanks again, Buzz. It was a lot of fun. Well, I hope you enjoyed the podcast today. It's all about getting in the wooden boat game. If you're not in the game, you need to get in. It's high time you do that. And there's lots of ways to do it. Sorry about that beep here. I got my, oops. I left my email on, and so I've got a little beep there in the background. But anyway, also wanted to mention that new to my website is a tip button. If you would like to make a tip for the podcast to help pay for the podcast. Cost me about $100 a month to do it. That would help a lot. I would appreciate it. Just go to my homepage on the right-hand side. You'll see a little button that says tip here. And actually, I've in the first month that I've had that up, I think I've got $100 in tips. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Well, I hope you have a great week. If you're not in the game, get in the game like I mentioned before. Go build a boat, row a boat, rent a boat, touch a boat, buy some wood, get some epoxy, buy some copper rivets, get Wooden Boat Magazine. Do something, folks. Get started in the game. Hope you have a great week. Wooden Boat Dan over and out. Keep the bright side up and the barnacled side down. God bless.